This is a quick video on the SRNE DB12 distribution box. So it's 297 quid, it's quite expensive. Some Sky Energy, and I say it's made by SRNE, and it's a good big kit. So it gives you 12 switchable circuits, it does 120 amps max across it. On a 30 amp circuit is the maximum current you can have from any one. It works 12, 24 volts and is fully Bluetooth. As I say, it's quite expensive for what is essentially a 12 volt fuse box, but it comes into its own. But I would say the biggest downside of this is I think that price is ridiculous, and that's not Sky Energy's fault. That's the price it costs from SRNE. Even if you want to buy it, you're not going to make a huge amount of that if you try and buy direct, but it does have some really good features. But would I buy it on its own as a 12 volt fuse box? No. It gives me no real improvement in terms of basic functionality than your standard little 12 volt unit. But it does have lots of other redeeming features. So underneath this panel here, which I've replaced with 2 thumb screws, are 2 sets of fuses. So you can see you've got 12 fuses, 30 amps, 20 amps and 10 amps. And you can change those to 15 and 5s and things like that, but you can't change them any more than 30. But underneath this panel, each one has 2 fuses, so you can set it to switchable and you can set it to permanent live. So if your fuse is in permanent live, then whatever is plugged in to that load will be constantly live. If you want it switched, then it could be switched, and that could be controlled from the app, or where it comes into its own is pairing it with the screen and the brain. But as itself, it works on its own, and what I've discovered, it also works on its own with the screen. So if you want a big 12 volt unit that gives you touchscreen switching on a screen, then you can do that. Personally wouldn't. I think the whole system works really well. But as I say, its downside is it's quite a considerable amount of money. But as I say, what it gives me are those 12 switches along the bottom, and that switch there for all lights and various other bits and bobs. It also allows me to control my inverter remotely as well via that switch. In terms of wiring it in then, so starting from scratch, is that I've got some quite beefy cables. I can't remember what those are, but they're quite beefy cables that run to my links distributor, and they're on a 150 amp mega fuse, because the maximum this will do is 130 to 150 in the instructions, so I've put it on a 150 cable and 150 mega fuse. But wiring it up is pretty simple. Your battery in is there, and you can use 2 thinner cables if you want to, as well as the negative, or you can just do what I've done, standard one, and then you wire it in. Those green plugs pull out, and you can see that I've got all my stuff wired in. There's a few bits of wires there I'm going to tidy up. You can see that the ones with the copper showing are the ones that I've just recently added, and now I'm happy with the length of the other end. They're for my lights and stuff. I'm going to tidy up and crimp those. But again, pretty simple. 30 amp loads, 20 amp loads, and then my 10s are split across there, and I'm using every single one. Then there are these 2 other plugs here, so remote on and off. That allows you to wire in a physical switch. So this one allows you to do a remote switch, so you can turn it on with a physical switch, and then my inverter on and off. And that inverter on and off runs over into my inverter over there, and that allows me to remotely activate either by the screen or via the app my inverter. And then the last one is a cable that runs across to my brain, which is the one you can run into the screen. So again, no real issues in terms of wiring that up. It's like any other fuse board, but you just have the choice under this panel to have permanently live or things. So these thumb screws don't come with it. They're tiny little screws, which I have removed and replaced with these off Amazon for a couple of quid. So if I take this panel off, there it is, and you can see all my fuses across there, and at the moment they're all set to switched. If I move them into the top, it changes them to permanently live. So yeah, it's a really good quality bit of kit. I just would I have bought it if I was tight on budget? Probably not, but we'll see how I use it. I like the idea of being able to independently switch everything. Whether it will in reality be worth doing is quite another thing. So easy, wire it in and make sure you're isolated. Wire in all your devices one at a time. Do it one at a time. Check it works, turn it off, do the next one, and so on and so forth. And then once everything is wired in, or you wire the first one, then you can go into the app and start settings. So very much like all the other devices, open the app, click plus, add the item, and there it is, DB12. So when you go into the DB12, you can see instantly I've got all these switches here. Now at the moment they are all, some of them are on, so the ones that are orange are on. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kill the main switch, which turns off all the things that I have preloaded. I'm going to turn off my fridge, and I'm going to turn off my inverter. So I'm doing this from my phone. I can do it from the touchscreen if I want to. So if you're just using this standalone, I'm going to use the app. So here I am. So the first thing I'm going to do once I'm in here is go into settings, and then you have these ones. So again, you're going to set your battery type, and then what you can do is you can play with these voltages, but I've not needed to touch them. So those of you that are experienced with electrics might want to tweak with these, but other than in this first box changing to lithium iron phosphate on channel 1, I've not touched anything. And then you've got the switch one. So in this one here, you can turn the switches on or off. So I can turn that switch off for output number 1. Output number 1 being this one. And I've permanently disabled it. So that switch will no longer work, but I don't want to do that. So I'm going to leave that one on there. And then, if this is one of the bits I didn't realise, is if I then touch the oh, not wrong bit. If I touch the name, I think it is. Where is it? Double click, is it? I can't remember. Nope. Under one of the settings, you can change things. So those are whether the things are on. No, it's not under, is it? Yeah. So those are the things that are always on. Now, one of the things that you need to do you see it says power down retention, bathroom power down retention. Now that's because I've called it bathroom, and that's my hot water system. Now, one of the things you need to do is you will need to set those by default, and we'll come back to that. So for the moment, enable the ones you want enabled, don't. So if you've only plugged in number 1, disable everything but number 1 and make your life easier. And then scrolling on down, my inverter pits power switch. So again, that's in, that's wired in, and that's done. The buzzer switches, I can put alarms on and do those. And then the wireless switching panel doesn't exist yet. So they are going to be doing a like a wireless physical panel that you can mount in your van, and it talks to your DB12. That's not actually commercially available yet. So as I say, once you've wired everything in and the first thing in, make sure your battery is set to the right thing, and then you don't need to touch any more of those settings for the minute. So we're going to go back to real time. So these are the switches. So if I push and hold, it allows me to make sure it's enabled or disabled. I can select the icon I want for it, and it comes out and load saves that, so it's bathroom. I push and hold it again, I can go in and I can change the name of it physically, and it kicks me back to this screen. Now, what I didn't realise is that you can go through and do that in turn, but what you need to do is do this. So if you go in to switches and disable number 1, because I want to reprogram it. So then if the power is switched off at the battery, it remembers it. So I then go across, I'm going to change bathroom for the minute. Oh, I don't want to turn it on, sorry. I'm going to push and hold it. I'm going to change it from bathroom to, I don't know, let's go switch, just a standard switch. Right. What I then need to do is, now I'm happy that that is what it is and it's called the switch, and that's going to be, I don't know, my light switch. I then need to go to settings, I need to go to switches, and I need to enable the switch power down again. So basically turn off the switch power down, set your switch, and then re-enable it. And what that will do now is it will remember, if you disconnect your battery, it will remember what that switch is called. If you don't do that for each of your switches, and you have to do it once, then it won't remember. So if I go back now and I change my switch number 1 back to, oh no, let's change it back to bathroom, and I rename it to 12 volt hot water, because that's what it is. Then you will see that if I come out of it and go back into it, that switch now says 12 volt and bathroom. My screen has got the right icon, which matches, which is absolutely brilliant. And then what happens is, if I kill my battery, I've completely isolated my system now, so those lights are going to fade on there and turn off. And I'm going to close the app. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to power on my system again. So that's going to come to life. It takes a second for the lights to flash and stuff like that. And then what happens is when I go into my app and go to my DB12, it still says 12 volt hot water. And I don't know why that is. Sometimes it does it, sometimes it doesn't. But essentially, just make sure that you set that switch to what it is, and then go into your switches, disable it, re-enable it, and then it will save that as bathroom now. And I'm sure you'll figure that out for yourself. But as I say, it was quite annoying that I'd set the 12 switches up, power down the system, and when I turned it back on again, none of the switches matched, so I didn't realise. So set all your switches up, then disable the switches in this setting, re-enable them to save the power down bits and bobs, and that's it really. You've got loads of icons. I say you can turn all these on from the app. When you change those, it will change the ones on the bottom of the screen if you're using the screen. But you can use it standalone, so you could just use it as a remotely activated fuse board if you wanted to. And I can see some good features being available in that. I've had no real dramas in setting it up. It's the one bit, I mean, there's nothing really go wrong, it's a fuse board, and all the switches have worked. So the only thing I found out was it was annoying when you turned it off and it didn't save it. But there's been a couple of firmware updates, and that might have even been sorted on one of the firmware updates that's taken place. But yeah, 297 quid, see what you think. If you want remote switching as a 300 quid add-on, when you consider I can have the brain, the screen and the shunt for another 67 quid or whatever, it does make it expensive. And that fuse panel is the same price virtually as the 3-in-1 DC-DC MPPT AC charging unit. So again, expensive, but I've got it. And I'm sure it will come into its own as a good sturdy unit. And I think that's a lot of their stuff. It's all decent metal, well made. I've not found anything wrong in terms of loose connections or anything like that. So yeah, see what you think. Have a look at the website. It's all on there. All the manuals are on there. And again, you can see the SRNE installation guide, which is a PDF, which helps you with a bit more detail over the Chinese ones. See what you think.